What's up, Scotch lovers?
Thursday night.
Scotch for Dummies.
Scotch for Dummies. Welcome.
We got a new director tonight, so we're doing the best we
doctor's
can.
pushing buttons, so be careful. We don't know what's going to happen. Surgery, who knows?
Oh boy.
We'll
Anyway,
do the best we can do.
how you guys doing, man?
Oh,
We're good. How are you guys doing?
This is the greatest job in the world.
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
If only we got paid for it.
Well, that would make it better. Yeah, that would.
It would be a real
In
job.
Scotch?
Either way.
Speaking of job, though, we are getting a ton of comments, and before we keep going, we just want to say keep them coming because
We love it.
Subscribe right
do
now
love
if you
it.
can. Like us right now.
Every day when we look, we're like, did you see how many people commented?
It's nuts.
And we really
It's
do
great.
try and get back to as many people as we
right.
can.
So keep them coming. Keith, love the fact that you're actually calling us out by name.
I know.
In the comments now, so keeping us on our toes.
Keep
But
we're
us
going to
real.
need an unpaid intern to keep up with all this stuff.
All right, guys. So tonight we've got Glenglassaugh. Something like that.
Somebody tell us.
Somebody's going to tell us.
It is a Highland coastal. It's on the northeast side of the space side, so it's right on the coast.
Right on the ocean.
It's right on the ocean.
Well,
That's
the
right.
sea.
Non-age.
The sea. That's right. It's founded in 1875 by James Moyer, his nephew William Morrison, and Thomas Wilson. Let's see. So basically, they started the whole thing. They wanted to make single malts, but the funny thing is they ended up selling it more for blended malts. It's actually in Cutty Sark in the 80s. So
Kind of common. That's
Yeah,
kind of common.
yeah, common thing.
Help pay the bills. Yeah.
Right.
It was sold in 1898 to Highland Distilleries, which closed 10 years later in 1908. Right? It was then revived
They're all revived.
in 1960s.
They all come back.
That's right.
They
And
all
then,
come
like a lot of distilleries, in 1986 it was mothballed.
In 86?
19.
All right, so
Alright.
we're talking 30 years ago. It was mothballed,
That's
and
right.
we've got a bottle of, well, it's non-aged. so
When
it's
did they
upset.
reopen?
So in I got notes because I'm not as good as you guys. So in 1998, they reopened. The funny thing was, is the current owners
Too
in
much
1998.
That's a problem.
I know, right? They were greedy, and they couldn't wait the 3 years to the legal 3 years to mature it. So they put one out earlier, but they got in trouble, so they couldn't label it Scotch. So they called it, if you look up, it's the spirit drink that dare not speak its name. That's the actual name of the Scotch.
Oh, it's a new make.
So it's before 3 years, but that's how they got through it. Anyway, Ben Riach bought them in 2013 and still owns it as of today.
Love
Didn't
it.
Sid and Rick just get bought
Well-
by Brown Foreman?
Yeah.
They did.
They
So
did.
technically, this is now owned by.
Right.
Brown Foreman.
Unless they didn't buy this one and they sold it off.
No, that's possible too. Who knows?
Which, before we get too much further, I want to say, when you just take a quick glance at the little picture
Wow, that's
here,
heavy.
whatever the symbol is,
Or is
it
that
looks
just
like a
me?
stormtrooper.
No, it's full.
I
It
know.
kinda does.
I take a glance and I'm like, why is a stormtrooper on my Scotch? But it's not.
Are
I don't
you,
even know what it is. It's a couple of birds.
Why are you arguing with the
I
stormtrooper?
don't know, man. Rogue One's coming out.
Smells
Drink your
like
Scotch.
Ocean.
So this is a quality Scotch back in the early 60s from when I was reading about it.
Oh,
It was-
nothing's good was made in the 60s.
So it's matured in a balance of mixed red wine and fresh bourbon casks.
Red wine.
That's right.
Red wine.
It's vatted and racked for double maturation in rich sherry casks.
Okay.
Oh, then put in.
So non-chill, no color, so it's
Right.
natural color. 46%.
46%.
So they're just throwing it all into whatever, right?
But it's an unaged, so this is what?
It is.
More than 3, but less than.
But this is kind of
whatever.
like their first big outing again into the Scotch world. That's why it's called Revive. So it's kind of like that whole, we're coming out again, this is
revival.
good Scotch. Right. So we'll see what
It
happens.
smells hot.
46.
It's 46.
Got a really sweet nose.
You think?
I think it's got a sweet sulfury nose. It's sweeter than
it
like
does
on the
have sulfur.
counter.
It's
But
got a
I
little
gotta-
something on the back end too.
Right,
Yeah. It's got some sweet notes on top.
I'm
but
getting some C in that too, some brine. Are you getting that?
I think that's the sulfury.
I think it's what
Oh,
it is.
I could
too.
be. Yeah.
Caramel too. Toffee.
Because I don't usually get the sulfur. I'm like the last one to get the sulfur, and
And you get
I'm the
it.
first one.
You get it on everything.
yeah,
So you're
right.
like, is this air sulfury? Does anybody else smell that? Just my wife?
After the Scotch eggs, you will. So
Oh my gosh. It does smell hot.
It's
though,
got
I'll
some
give you that.
fruit too, like plums. I get some plums. What do you think?
A very clean start. The palate is smooth.
Oh.
You know what? It was really pretty crisp and clean, but it finished the finish kind of built up. It had a little bit of butterscotch going on at the end.
It almost finished dry to me.
It
like
did.
Dry.
It is dry. It's definitely mouth dry.
Yeah.
And it's got a really
Definitely mouth dry.
like sour nut taste almost, or something like that.
Sour
finish.
nut.
I noticed that after I took that drink, look at the lines.
I
I mean, it's really oily. Which
Like
is funny.
super oily.
Yeah, which I don't understand why it would finish so dry then.
Well, and I don't get that clinging sensation in the mouth either. Usually when you get one that's oily like this, it'll have that
coats your
deep
mouth
finish and you'll feel it. And this finish is more crisp and clean.
It's really crisp up front, sweet roll back, and then
try the second sip. It's
hotter
clingy.
on the.
It's more clingy on the second one.
It's hotter on the second sip.
It is by far. Yeah.
Because it really wasn't that bad. I didn't think on the
So
first
where is
sip.
this thing located at? Show me on the map real quick.
It's right on the northern coast.
There.
Oh, okay. So it's right outside of Speyside. Really.
It's right northeast of Speyside.
Okay.
Right there.
Like you could throw a rock and hit Speyside.
So I need
Of course,
to
all the
try
Spays
one
are
more.
considered highlands, right?
Yes, they are. But we won't go there.
It's sweeter than just sulfur, right? There's something else in there.
There's no peat. There's no smoke.
No.
There's a little bit, maybe a.
It's a very light
It's
scotch.
kind of earthy too, a little
I'm not.
bit.
Yeah, I get some earth in there. I'm definitely not getting the.
I get some honey butterscotch notes, a little bit of clover, but there's really not a whole lot of.
I'm not getting much at all. You're on deck, by the way.
Am I?
Yeah.
Well, let me talk to you about honey and clover and butterscotch.
No marzipan tonight.
Ooh,
No.
a lot more.
You might want
You
to.
know
A lot
what?
more
I need to
sweetness
probably
on the
put a drop
water.
on
Yeah,
there.
yeah, you do because I'm all of a sudden that.
Hung a brother
I
out.
dropped some water in there and it just.
That's good.
It
Whoa,
became
whoa,
sweet
easy, killer.
butterscotch.
I got
I'm
you too
getting the
much of
butterscotch
Sean.
in there now.
I told you.
Wow,
Let that
that's
thing
amazing.
open up for him.
You know what? And the nose doesn't smell as.
Well, look what it did to
as
the lines.
sulfurous
It
as
killed
was.
them.
So actually, we
Yeah,
did get
it
a
did.
comment yesterday
Oh, I see
about
lines in there.
how long do we let our scotch open up, and I kind of commented and I said, well, it depends. Obviously, it depends on the scotch, right? You guys got any comments on that?
Well, and the person, I mean, you know, everything's personal when it comes to scotch
Yeah.
in my mind.
So, like tonight, when we first got here, we all poured a glass. Did we let it sit for 20 minutes?
Nope.
No.
No, we didn't.
In 20 minutes, we had a sip of a couple of different things just to try some stuff out. But, you know, we also like to open up our palates a little bit and
Get them started.
yeah, you know, take away some of that initial alcohol burn and get us going so we can actually taste these scotches and give it a fair shake. But we
Wow, it smells
usually
a
try
lot
and taste
sweeter
some
now.
stuff that's
It
a
does.
little more neutral. Man, it's
How does water do that?
It smells a lot sweeter with that water on it.
The
You know
taste
what?
hasn't got.
now that it's set for
Changed
just
at
like a
all?
couple of minutes, I don't get as much of the sulfur.
I don't either. And maybe
It's
that's
still there.
that's the advantage of letting your scotch age. You maybe get off some of those off flavors that you maybe don't want.
All right,
Like a sugar syrup. What do they call that? Was simple syrup?
simple syrup.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm
All right, so I'm up, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about this one. So it's pretty simple, clean scotch. I mean, the nose is a little bit sulfury, and it's not necessarily what I look for in a scotch, but it's not so off-putting that I wouldn't drink this glass because I'm totally going to finish this glass. But there's not a lot going on in this scotch. It's very clean. You got a little butterscotch, you got some honey, I got a little clover before I put the water on. After the water, not so much. It brought forward some of the sweeter notes, but kind of killed some of that delicate structure, I think. Took away a little bit of the oily qualities with a little bit of the water.
What do you get on the finish?
You know, originally I got butterscotch. After the water, it just kind of fades away to nothing pretty quick. It doesn't really have much of a finish for me.
It smells like caramel.
I'm going to give it a 1.5. It didn't really do a whole lot for me. It's not a bad scotch. What would we pay for this?
That's my question was, well, what was the price on this
I
bottle?
think it was like 60.
60
Yeah,
bucks?
for $60, I mean, there's a lot of good scotch I can buy.
$60 bottle.
But, you know, I don't think it's necessarily, an awful scotch. It's just, it didn't really do that much for me. So, what you got, man?
God, I'm probably going to ding it. Being the Scotch whore, I'm probably going to ding it the worst. Neat. I didn't really care for the nose or the palate. I mean, it just wasn't anything there. I didn't get anything redeeming out of it. Nothing jumped at me and said, wow, that really, I want to hold on to that.
Right.
Obviously, I got the sulfur, and I'm sensitive that everybody knows it. But I put the water on it, and then the nose opened up, and I enjoyed that a little bit more better. I was like, oh, there's some sweetness in there. didn't translate to the palate, and that kind of stinks. So it's smooth with the water. But there's nothing that I can grab onto. I can't even tell you what I like or dislike. It's just kind of like there. Well, geez, if I'm going to pay $60 for a non-age statement to just have alcohol, forget that. When I can spend $60 and get some delicious
I can get 3 bottles of Jack Daniels for that.
No, but I can get a couple bottles of Johnny Black, and I go through that stuff like, water. But so
tasty water.
You know,
that's good stuff. I'm
stuck between a 1 and a 1.5. I really am. I'm going to actually give it a 1 because of the price. There's nothing in it that grabs me. There's nothing off-putting, I'll say that much. There's nothing that says, ooh, don't give me any of that. I'll drink it if you pour it for me, but I'm not going out of my way for it. Now, that doesn't mean they don't have anything good coming out. This is non-aged. They're trying to get back into the industry. They've been around for, obviously, a long freaking time. Yeah. So, you know, I'm not discounting the distillery at all. I'm saying this particular run of it, I don't care for. So I'm going to give it a 1.
There you go.
So I can see where Glenglassaugh is a fairly good blend Scotch.
Sure.
Yes.
I agree with that.
Because it's got a good nose on it. It's got a good palate. But for me, the finish is really hurting it on this. And, you know, normally I like to drink a Scotch that will, I'll taste it, you get some things, and then the finish is nice and long. And then I can just sit there and do something else while I let that Scotch kind of linger.
Do its thing.
For me, the finish on this, I think it was better neat. Okay, the nose wasn't as good neat, but the nose was better with water. The finish, I think, is worse with water. and it has a
puzzle.
I can't describe what it is. You know, I'm doing some reading on it. There's talk about dry shellfish, and maybe that's it. It's kind of a protein flavor. And I was, when I tried it neat tonight, I was kind of worried because we had tried this a little bit before, and I really didn't like it. It's not as bad tonight. I mean, I think us discussing it and working through that and really deep analyzing it, but still the finish, I don't care for it, and so I wouldn't drink this like my normal Scotch. It's one of those you have to kind of keep sipping on to keep the good flavor in, and that's not what I like in a Scotch. So I'm gonna give this a 1 because it does have some good qualities, and probably putting it in a blend with something that has good finish would be a brilliant move.
Yeah.
But by itself, it's not a Scotch for me.
Especially for the price point.
Well, I wasn't even thinking of the price point.
It's expensive.
Maybe it's a half for that, but I'll
no age statement and for what it is. I mean, I kind of agree with what you said there. I mean, we tried it before, and I was kind of off-put with the aftertaste too, the finish. It wasn't as bad tonight as what I remember. Reading about it today and really kind of helped educate me a little bit more. I know that the original owners of this had a different Scotch than what we have right now, so that's changed a little bit. They revamped the distillery, etc., and whatnot. Changed
different
recipe.
stills and everything. Oh wow!
Yeah, that's
so it's a different. So
they kept the
taste.
name, and that's
really different.
Yeah.
So,
but for what it is, for $60 for no age statement, I'll tell you, it's a super smooth Scotch. It's really easy to drink.
46%.
For
46%,
but it's really smooth for me. I like the sweetness, the caramel toffee. That's a good flavor for me. But and I kind of appreciate the whole roll back from the sweet, quick taste to dry.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. That finish, that nutty, whatever that is too strong for me.
I didn't get anything at all.
And it kind of really sours the whole thing a little bit for me.
Yeah.
I'd give it a higher score if it wasn't for that. I mean, I'm getting used to it. Maybe it's just my palate.
What was your number?
I haven't done it yet.
Okay.
I'm gonna give it.
You didn't miss it.
I thought I missed it.
I'm gonna give it a 1.5 because I think it's worthy of 1.5, but barely.
There you go.
Well, you know, and I'm curious to see. So we mentioned that obviously they haven't kept the stills. That things have changed. Yeah, they've been around for 100 and some odd years. Multiple owners, and a new one on the way.
Yeah, they're not even.
So
they're not following
really, what's going to happen to this distillery here in the future? I mean, there's a couple of Ben Ria. God, they better not screw that up, right? So we'll see what happens on this anyway. But
they're in a great location. They're by themselves in the Northeast. There's no one around there, so they got plenty of real estate.
Yeah.
Right. So one.
We'll give it a shot.
1.5.
So 1.25.
1.25 for the revival.
The dummies can handle that.
Right, I can do that math.
That's easy.
Anyway, guys, it's Scotch, and I do like Scotch.
And
There
we'll
we go.
finish. Cheers.
Cheers,
Cheers.
guys.
Thanks for watching.
Luncheon.
Thank you.